A homecoming of a different sort, the man who's been called the world's most popular pianist returns to mark the 70th anniversary of his first concert. Join us as we celebrate the star-studded career of Roger Williams. Iowans have always been proud supporters when one of our own makes it big, and few have made it any bigger than Des Moines' own Roger Williams. He has been called the world's most popular pianist, but despite international acclaim, he's never forgotten his Iowa roots. On a trip back to Des Moines late last year, he was reminded that we've never forgotten him either.
It's going to be all the way down on your left. Okay.
If you're Roger Williams, you share your gift of music. In December of 2001, Iowa's most famous pianist returned to the same Hoyt Sherman stage where, as a 7-year-old, he shared a piano bench with his music teacher.
I remember that I had arranged a number for the piano teacher and I to play on the piano. She played the under part and the bass, and I played I think it was oh gosh, what was it? Oh yeah, a Donkey Serenade. Donkey Serenade. Wow, that's 70 years. Now, you got to forgive me because it's been a long time. I didn't remember that song.
And it has been a long and prolific career. Williams burst onto the pop music scene with his 1955 smash hit, Autumn Leaves. It was the first in a string of 22 hit singles, 115 albums, and 18 gold or platinum records. He has performed for 8 presidents and has his own star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. Born Louis Wirtz in Omaha, Williams grew up in the shadow of Des Moines' Hoyt Sherman Theatre. The son of a Lutheran minister, his early musical exposure came from his mother, a violin teacher and orchestra conductor. At age 3, he was already playing by ear.
I remember the first thing I did is I walked up to the piano and I played Stand Up for Jesus. I had to stand up. I was playing like this. But my dad was a preacher and I heard that song at church.
Williams attended North High, where he was a guard on the championship basketball team. Sports and girls were the most important things, he says, and not necessarily in that order. He even tried his hand at boxing.
I had a very fast hands. I've always had very fast hands, but I didn't have that knockout punch.
But it was for the music, which he composed, arranged, and conducted, that he was singled out as among the most likely in his graduating class to succeed.
I'm very pleased to present this North High flag to Roger Williams, the world's best pianist, class of 1942.
As part of his 70th anniversary celebration, Williams was honored at a school-wide assembly where he answered students' questions, offered them some advice, and put his trademark touches on the school song.
Every one of us has a special gift, and that special gift is so easy for us that we neglect it. We're looking at the other guy that maybe he's real good at math, or maybe he's a real big football star, and we're saying, gee, why can't I do that?
When I was a kid, I thought, if I make donuts, I want to make the greatest donuts in the world. So I think that's my real talent, is just a talent to really go get it, whatever it is. I could have talked to the kids for 2 hours today because discipline is so important. Some days I just can't stand to see the piano, but I force myself to practice, and that many times is when all the ideas come. Other days, boy, I just can't wait to play, and nothing happens. So if you discipline yourself so that you say a certain amount of time every day I'm going to practice, you don't know what's going to happen, but you're there when it does.
After graduating from high school in 1942, Williams served in the Navy during World War II. He later studied music at Idaho State, Drake University, and at Juilliard. During the late 40s, music lovers in Des Moines could have tuned into his recorded radio concerts while driving to Yonkers Tea Room to hear him live.
And you could come up and hear me play during the dinner hour, get a complete meal, and a ticket to the Des Moines Theater, the Paramount, or the Orpheum for $1, for $1. Of course, you had to leave a nickel tip.
The early 50s found him in New York City, playing piano at nightclubs while hoping for that big break. After 3 years working the same upscale Forest Hill club, he was considering accepting the University of Iowa professorship he'd been offered when Cap Records called. They needed a pianist to accompany the singer Jane Morgan for a recording that coming weekend. And by the way, did he know a tune called Autumn Leaves?
I said, you mean Falling Leaves? I didn't even know the title of it. And so this was Friday night, he called me. And I stayed up all Friday night. I stayed up all Saturday night, most of Sunday when I got the arrangement to the orchestrator.
Jane Morgan's recording session ended with 11 minutes to spare. Not even enough time for Williams to rehearse Autumn Leaves with the orchestra. After 2 takes, the engineer called out from the booth.
And he said, listen, he said, disc jockeys in that day wouldn't play a song that was over 3 minutes because they had all these commercials they had to do. He said, can you play those a little faster? And I said, okay. So we had 1 more take. And I did it in 2:59. And afterwards, the French horn player came up to me and he said, oh, I made a horrible mistake. He said, I played a note and went, oop, like that. We left it in. And if you listen to Autumn Leaves to this day, you'll hear the French horn player go, oop, right in the middle.
But audiences were listening to the piano in record numbers. Autumn Leaves held down the #1 spot on the Billboard chart for a solid month. Today, it remains the greatest selling piano recording of all time. Nearly 50 years later, Williams still performs 30 to 40 concerts a year. His latest compact disc was released in 2000, and his PBS concert Pop Goes the Ivories has been seen on public television stations around the country. When you hear people talking about retirement, what do you say?
Well, I tell them the same thing. I say people retire to do the things that they've always wanted to do. I retired at 3 years old. There are so many great pianists out there now, really good kids coming up. And I am so thrilled that people still want to come and see an old guy like me.
Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.